Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take the overwhelming noise of the internet, especially when it comes to health and wellness, and filter it down to pure signal just for you.
It's absolutely true. You know that feeling when you open up social media or look at the news in early January?
Oh, I know it well. It's just this relentless avalanche of revolutionary eating plans, detoxes, and programs, all promising instant results.
Exactly. And trying to figure out what's actually scientifically sound versus just a fleeting, sometimes even dangerous trend can feel completely paralyzing.
That paralysis of choice is exactly what we're tackling today. We're going to cut straight through all of that marketing fluff and the endless, anecdotal evidence to deliver the cold, hard, expert consensus.
Our mission is simple. We are doing a deep dive into the official 2025 Best Diets Overall ranking, which was compiled by a massive, really credible panel of experts.
So we're going to walk you through the frameworks that consistently work.
Yep. The targeted plans for specific health goals and, importantly, the ones the experts specifically said you should approach with extreme caution. We want you to walk away from this armed with the most credible, actionable knowledge out there.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are essentially handing you the shortcut to being well-informed without all the stress of reading, like 38 different, often conflicting diet manifestos.
It's the Cliffs Notes version, but a version that's backed by some serious science.
Perfect. And if you ever feel a need to dive even deeper, or if you're just looking for clear, practical, and free articles on fitness nutrition that complement what we're talking about,
Then our go-to resource is always BeFit.ai. They provide actionable tips that are grounded in the same kind of expert-backed, safe, and sustainable advice we're focusing on today. It's a great companion resource.
All right, let's start with the foundation then. Before we even talk about specific diets, we need to understand the criteria.
Yeah,
I mean, who is doing the judging?
that's the essential starting point.
Because, and this is crucial, just ranking diets based on who loses the most weight the fastest is a recipe for long-term failure and maybe even disaster.
That is exactly why the U.S. News& World Report annual rankings carry so much weight and credibility. This wasn't, a survey handed out to trainers at a local gym.
Right.
The list was chosen by a massive panel, 69 experts in total.
69. Wow. Okay, that number alone immediately tells you how serious this process is. But what kind of expertise were they drawing from? It sounds like it's more than just general practitioners.
Oh, absolutely. The breadth of expertise is really the key to the validity of the results here. They included experts in dietetics and clinical nutrition, of course, but also a specialist in obesity treatment, behavioral food psychology.
Food psychology, that's interesting.
It's critical. And also diabetes management and heart disease prevention. You need that diverse mix because a diet that is scientifically great but psychologically is impossible to stick to will fail the average person every time.
I see. So you need the food psychologist to weigh in on, like, how easy is this to actually follow? And the diabetes specialist to assess the impact on blood sugar.
Precisely. It's a truly holistic view of health, not just, aesthetic change. And the experts evaluated 38 different diets based on 7 key categories.
Let's talk through those 7, because this really tells you what the experts care about most.
Okay, so the first 2 metrics deal with weight management. First, effectiveness for long-term weight loss, which requires sustainable changes that last 2 or more years.
2 or more years, that's a high bar.
It is. And then separately, effectiveness for short-term weight loss.
Okay, stop right there. Why is the short-term effectiveness separated out if long-term is really the ultimate goal?
That's a great question. It's separated to acknowledge that, a quick start can be really psychologically motivating for people.
Sure, gets you going.
It does. But the ranking heavily prioritizes plans where that initial success can be maintained and safely managed. Short-term results are useful, but they just don't outweigh long-term safety.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, what were the next 3 categories?
Third was how easy it is to follow. I mean, if a diet involves a bunch of obscure ingredients or hours of complicated meal prep, it's going to score low here.
Of course.
Fourth, nutritional completeness, meaning does it cut out entire necessary food groups and lead to deficiencies in, say, vitamin B12 or calcium or fiber?
Right, the things your body actually needs.
And then the 5th metric focuses on preventative health, the potential for preventing or managing diabetes.
So we've covered sustainability, practicality, nutritional soundness, and diabetes management. What are the last 2?
The final 2 are absolutely vital. Number 6, the potential for preventing heart disease. Heart disease, as we know, is still the leading cause of death for adults in the U.S., so this is a critical clinical metric.
And number 7.
And finally, the seventh and arguably the most crucial category for the panel was safety. Is this plan safe for the general public over a prolonged period? Does it pose risks to kidney function or your metabolism?
That is a comprehensive health report card, far beyond just pounds lost. I did notice that when they combined the scores to determine the best diets overall, some of those categories were weighted much more heavily than others.
They were. And this is the experts' way of signaling their priorities. The panel gave significantly more consideration to the scores for long-term weight loss and, fundamentally, the safety category.
So ease of use and quick results were secondary.
They were important, but they never outweighed the core concern for your long-term health and well-being.
That is an incredibly important insight for you, the listener. If you're comparing two diets, and one promises rapid results but sacrifices safety or sustainability, the expert consensus says that is the wrong trade-off.
Safety and maintainability win every single time.
Yeah.
Precisely. And that philosophy leads us directly to the undisputed reigning champion,
Here's where it gets really interesting.
the Mediterranean diet. For the 5th consecutive year, it ranked right at the very top in 2025, taking the #1 spot.
The gold standard.
It is widely considered the undisputed gold standard for nutrition, disease prevention, wellness, and longevity.
And I think what makes it so successful is that it feels almost wrong to call it a diet. It's more of a lifestyle or an ethos, isn't it?
It is. That distinction is its genius. It's an eating style and a way of life, not a rigid, rules-oriented, prescriptive plan.
Right.
When we talk about the Mediterranean diet, we aren't talking about one single uniform approach. I mean, the diet of someone in Greece looks different from someone in Italy or Spain.
So it adapts to local food.
Exactly. They share core principles, but the specific ingredients and dishes vary greatly based on local, fresh availability.
So if it's a style, what are the non-negotiable core components that define it across all those regions?
The foundation is absolutely plant-forward and fiber-rich. It's characterized by an abundance of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, nuts, and pulses. That's your beans, lentils, peas, and chickpeas.
And the fat source is key, right?
The primary non-negotiable fat source is extra virgin olive oil, which provides heart-healthy, monounsaturated fats and a ton of essential antioxidants. By shifting your intake toward these whole, unprocessed foods, you naturally increase nutrient density and fiber.
Which usually leads to natural weight management without even trying.
Exactly. And what about protein sources? That's where a lot of restrictive diets run into trouble.
Yeah, good question.
The approach to protein is balanced and moderate. Fish is highly encouraged at least a few times per week, specifically focusing on fatty fish high in omega-3s like salmon.
Okay.
Poultry, eggs, and dairy are allowed, but the key word is moderation. The diet severely limits processed foods, added sugar, and especially red meat.
How limited is red meat typically?
It's usually eaten only a few times per month. It's treated more like a condiment or a special occasion dish rather than a daily staple.
I appreciate that the expert ranking looked beyond just what's on the plate and acknowledged the necessary lifestyle component. This isn't just a recipe list.
It's completely holistic. The philosophy emphasizes moving your body. The plan explicitly encourages at least 2.5 hours per week of moderate intensity activity.
And that's deliberately approachable, right? It's not like you have to go run a marathon.
Not at all. It includes recreational things like brisk walking, gardening, or swimming, and encourages a few days of muscle strengthening exercises. It promotes movement as an enjoyable part of daily life.
Okay, and we have to address the most famous or maybe infamous feature, the moderate red wine consumption. Is this a requirement?
It is absolutely not a requirement, and that is a critical distinction. It is a common feature of the traditional lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's typical for followers to include a moderate amount of red wine, one standard 5-ounce glass per day for females, and up to 2 for males, usually enjoyed with a meal.
But if you don't drink, you shouldn't start.
Correct. The consensus is clear. If you don't currently drink alcohol, do not start this diet to get those benefits. The vast majority of the benefits come from the food and the activity, not the alcohol.
When you look at the benefits, the sheer volume of research supporting this diet is just staggering. I can see why it maintains its top rank.
It's unrivaled in terms of breadth of positive outcomes. It's nutritionally sound, it's balanced, and it provides a highly diverse array of filling foods. The research supports its ability to dramatically improve outcomes for metabolic syndrome, obesity, type 2 diabetes, certain cancers, and most critically, heart disease.
Let's delve a little deeper into the specific data that makes this diet so convincing. I'm thinking of that 2018 Italian study, for example.
That's a fantastic study to highlight because it directly speaks to that long-term weight management criteria we talked about.
Right.
That research found that people who stuck to the Mediterranean diet were associated with significantly lower levels of weight gain and, importantly, less of an increase in waist circumference over a long 12-year period.
And why is the focus on waist circumference so significant?
Because that visceral fat, the fat stored around your waist and abdominal organs, is strongly linked to major health risks, including insulin resistance and heart disease.
So it's not just about weight, it's about where you carry that weight.
Precisely. The fact that this diet helps prevent the accumulation of that specific dangerous kind of fat over a decade is a huge selling point for experts.
So it's the gold standard.
Yeah.
But even the gold standard has its drawbacks. What were the main cons that the expert panel identified?
The primary disadvantage, and this is probably relatable for a lot of listeners, is that its flexibility can be frustrating for people who thrive on structure.
I can totally see that.
Because it's a style of eating rather than a set program, there are no specific, rigid guidelines for portions or calorie targets or predefined meal plans.
Right. For someone just starting out, or maybe someone who needs to track intake really meticulously for medical reasons, that could be a huge challenge.
Exactly. When the rule is just eat less red meat, that can be interpreted in 100 different ways. The other big drawback is the potential cost.
Yeah, fresh fish and good olive oil aren't cheap.
They're not. It relies heavily on fresh, high-quality produce, healthy fish, and good olive oil, which can definitely strain a tight budget.
So are there actionable ways to mitigate that cost?
Definitely. You can significantly reduce your grocery bill by making practical substitutions. Buying in-season produce, opting for frozen fruits and vegetables, which are just as nutritious.
And bulk grains, I imagine.
Exactly. Choosing bulk whole grains like oats and barley and relying on affordable, fiber-rich canned or dried beans and lentils, you just have to be a bit smarter about your shopping.
And the final hurdle, since it emphasizes cooking whole, unprocessed foods, you actually have to be willing to spend time in the kitchen.
You do. This is a framework that requires engagement. But if you want to follow the plan with more structure, our advice mirrors the expert panels. Consult with a registered dietitian.
To get that personalized plan.
Yep. They can help you determine portion sizes and caloric needs and customize Mediterranean meals tailored specifically to your budget and your goals.
That gives us a fantastic, comprehensive view of the #1 diet. Now let's move to #2, the DAS diet, which shares some elements but is much more structured.
Yes. The DASH diet, which stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension, is the #2 ranked diet. It is an institution promoted by the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, part of the NIH.
And it's crucial to emphasize it's not just for people with high blood pressure.
Not at all. It's essentially recommended for anyone seeking a highly structured, scientifically proven way to achieve better health. The key difference here is that DASH isn't a style. It's a very specific eating pattern with hard, defined numbers attached.
It's more prescriptive.
Much more. The NIH provides specific portion goals from various food groups, depending on your daily calorie needs. This removes all the ambiguity of the Mediterranean diet.
So let's look at an example, the 1,600-calorie plan.
Okay, for the 1,600-calorie DASH plan, you are aiming for 5 to 6 servings of whole grains daily things, like brown rice, oatmeal, or whole wheat bread.
Okay, that's very specific.
It is. Then 3 to 4 servings of vegetables daily and 4 full servings of fruit daily. You also include 2 to 3 servings of fat-free or low-fat dairy.
Wow. It feels like a diet where you know exactly what you're doing when you walk into the grocery store.
It leaves very little to chance, which is why people who struggle with abstract goals love it. You also get 3 to 4 servings of nuts, seeds, and legumes per week.
And the most specific, non-negotiable feature, the cornerstone of its hypertension focus.
That would be the sodium limit. The plan requires a maximum of 2,300 milligrams per day.
And the average American consumes way more than that.
Way more. Closer to 3,400 milligrams daily. So hitting 2,300 milligrams means severely cutting back on most canned goods, processed snacks, fast food, It basically forces you to cook from scratch.
That makes it a powerful tool for blood pressure, but it's also designed to be a long-haul approach, correct?
Absolutely. Though the word diet is in the name, DASH is meant to be followed for the long haul. It's meant to become a permanent part of a healthy lifestyle.
And the research backs it up.
It is highly researched and proven not just to reduce blood pressure, but also to promote healthy weight loss, protect heart health, and lower the risk of type 2 diabetes and stroke.
So with all that structure, what are the drawbacks? What kept it from hitting number one?
The panel noted a few things. First, the default structure assumes you're including low-fat dairy and lean meats. If someone wants a strictly plant-based approach, it requires a bit more effort to, calculate how to replace those nutrients and hit the specific goals.
So it's not impossible, just requires more work from the user.
Exactly. And second, compared to the Mediterranean diet, it is a bit low in overall healthy fats. While it encourages nuts and seeds, it heavily emphasizes low-fat dairy and lean meats.
Meaning you miss out on some of that olive oil goodness.
Right. You might not get the same high intake of monounsaturated fats. If you want more flexibility, customizing the plan with a dietitian is always advised.
Moving down the rankings, we hit number 3. The flexitarian diet, which has been buzzing since around 2004.
It has incredible longevity because it elegantly solves a huge psychological problem in nutrition. That all-or-nothing mentality.
So to define it simply for us.
Simply put, it is primarily a vegetarian diet. So the majority of your food is plant-based, with the occasional strategic inclusion of animal protein. The flexibility is the entire point.
But if flexibility is the core feature, that means there's no official rulebook telling you how much chicken you can have per week.
That's the challenge and the beauty of it. But the expert consensus on how to follow it best for health and weight management is crystal clear. Maximize your intake of whole plant foods and minimize highly processed foods, even if those processed foods are technically vegan.
Right, so a grain bowl with quinoa and lentils over a processed vegan cheeseburger.
You choose the grain bowl every time. The focus isn't just no meat. The focus is nutrient density. You reap tremendous benefits while still enjoying those occasional servings of animal foods, which helps a ton in social situations.
And the research seems to validate this partial shift away from meat.
Absolutely. A key 2016 review showed that shifting toward a mostly plant-based diet is strongly tied to lower body weight, a reduced incidence of chronic diseases, and better metabolic markers.
And the psychological benefit is huge.
It is. A 2020 study highlighted that young adults see it as an accessible in-between approach. It removes the pressure of having to commit to an identity as a full vegetarian or vegan.
But the drawback again is that flexibility is a disadvantage for those who crave rules.
Correct. When you hear eat less meat, some people immediately ask, well, how much is less? This has led to the emergence of specific subcategories, which were detailed in a fascinating 2021 study.
Let's dive into those segments. This is where the diet starts connecting to broader values, which I find really interesting.
The 3 types they identified are basically different motivations. First is the climatarian, who primarily focuses on limiting high environmental impact meats, like beef and lamb.
So this person might eat chicken or fish, but consciously avoids heavy red meat for environmental reasons.
Exactly. Then you have the one step for animals approach, where followers specifically eliminate one category of animal, often chicken, because it's the most consumed meat, while still allowing themselves other types.
That's a powerful approach for someone with an ethical motivation.
And finally, the reducitarian, which is the broadest definition. Just a firm commitment to reduce all meat consumption without targeting a specific type. These segments show the diet is moving beyond just personal health metrics.
And that sets the stage perfectly for our next one, which is the most targeted approach we've covered. The MIND diet.
The MIND diet, standing for the Mediterranean-H Intervention for Neurodegenerative Delay, is a powerful hybrid. Its core focus is on brain health, preventing dementia, and slowing cognitive decline.
So it's basically a curated playlist of the most protective nutrients for your brain, selected from the top 2 diets.
Precisely. And unlike the pure Mediterranean diet, the MIND diet translates its recommendations into very clear, actionable targets. It centers on increasing the intake of 10 brain-defending foods while limiting 5 brain-hindering foods.
The specificity is a welcome structure here. Let's talk about the 10 foods we should be aiming for.
The first, and maybe the most important, is green leafy vegetables. The goal is 6 or more servings per week.
6 servings of leafy greens. Wow. What else?
Nuts are 5 or more servings weekly. They provide essential healthy fats and vitamin E. And importantly, Berries, like blueberries and strawberries, are singled out for their potent antioxidant power. You aim for at least twice a week.
Berries are key for brain health, I've heard.
They are. Then beans, at least 4 times per week. You use olive oil as your main cooking fat. You're also looking for whole grains, at least 3 servings a day, and fish at least once a week, especially fatty fish like salmon.
So it's a highly balanced, nutrient-dense diet already, but it also has very specific limits on foods that hinder brain health.
Yes, the clarity of the 5 restrictive categories is highly effective. You need to limit butter and margarine to less than 1 tablespoon per day.
Less than a tablespoon of butter a day. That is incredibly strict. What about cheese?
Cheese is limited to once per week or less. Red meat should be no more than 3 weekly servings. And finally, fried food less than once per week, and pastries and sweets no more than 4 times per week.
These precise targets are what makes the research on the MIND diet so compelling. Tell us about that key 2015 study.
That 2015 study of nearly 1,000 older adults was groundbreaking. The findings were spectacular. Those who followed the MIND diet most closely had a massive 53% lower risk of developing Alzheimer's disease.
53%.
Yeah.
That is a life-altering protective factor.
It is, and even those who followed it moderately still saw a 35% reduction in risk. It's also been associated with delaying the onset of Parkinson's disease.
Now, we need to address a crucial caveat, especially for the listener whose primary goal is weight loss. The research on weight loss outcomes for the MIND diet reveals a surprisingly different picture.
This is a critical point. A large 2020 research study found a shocking result. Following the MIND diet consistently had no measurable impact on body weight or waistline size for participants with obesity.
That sounds completely counterintuitive. If you're eating all those leafy greens and cutting out fried food, why would you not lose weight?
It does sound surprising. The likely disadvantage is the same issue we've seen before: the lack of concrete, structured meal plans or explicit portion control.
So even if the food is healthy, you can still overconsume it.
Absolutely. The MIND diet tells you what to eat more of: nuts, olive oil, whole grains. But those are all calorie-dense foods. If you start adding generous amounts of olive oil and eating huge portions, you can easily exceed your caloric needs.
Which completely negates the weight management benefits.
Exactly, even while you're still getting the neurological protection. It's why if weight loss is your goal, you need to combine the MIND principles with a separate portion control technique.
That is the perfect example of why this expert ranking is so valuable. Okay, let's move on to diets that are extremely structured, often from esteemed clinical sources. We'll start with the Mayo Clinic diet.
The Mayo Clinic diet is ranked 5th, and it immediately carries the weight of its origin. The diet is built on establishing research-backed, tried-and-true healthy habits for a long-term, maintainable lifestyle.
It sounds like it's built to teach you how to eat healthfully. What are the phases?
It's a 12-week program in 2 phases. Phase 1 is Lose It. It's a rapid 2-week phase that touts 6 to 10 pounds of weight loss by focusing on breaking bad habits. You eat unlimited fruits and veggies and severely limit sugar.
So 2 weeks of retraining followed by the long haul.
Correct. You transition to phase 2, Live It. This is the long-term maintenance part. It focuses on consuming your calories healthfully without strict counting, just adopting the habits.
The primary drawback the panel noted for this one, despite its clinical backing, is the cost.
Yes, the barrier is the subscription model for their all-new digital program. The month-to-month version is about $50 a month, though it gets cheaper if you commit to a year.
That's a significant cost compared to just buying a book.
Yeah.
But what do you get for that money?
It's a comprehensive, integrated experience. The program includes daily meal plans, thousands of recipes, trackers for everything, virtual group video sessions, at-home workouts, and even a psychological quiz to assess your diet mindset.
So you're paying for the infrastructure of accountability and behavioral science.
Exactly. It's an integrated package that addresses the emotional components of eating, which many free diets completely ignore.
Next up is the TLC diet, which is fascinating because it is purely a clinical diet, specifically niche-focused on heart health.
TLC stands for Therapeutic Lifestyle Changes. It was developed in 2002 by the NIH specifically as a dietary tool to lower LDL cholesterol. This is primarily a clinical plan a doctor might recommend.
And when we talk about TLC, we are dealing with the most specific nutrient ratios we've discussed so far.
This is a textbook prescription. It mandates 25 to 35% of daily calories from total fat. But the critical, challenging number is that less than 7% of those total calories must come from saturated fat.
Wait, less than 7%. Let's make that real. What does that functionally eliminate from the average person's diet?
It is extremely restrictive. A 2,000-calorie diet would limit saturated fat to around 13 grams a day. 1 ounce of cheddar cheese has about 6 grams. It essentially requires eliminating most fatty meats, full-fat dairy, butter, and tropical oils.
So even healthy fats like coconut oil are out.
Severely limited, yes. Furthermore, carbohydrates make up 50 to 60% of total calories, which is quite high, and protein is limited to only about 15%.
So what are the challenges that cause the panel to rank it lower?
2 major practical cons. First, that high-carb, modest protein ratio might not be suitable for many people, especially active individuals who need more protein for satiety.
And the second issue?
This is the biggest one. Translating those strict numerical percentages, like less than 7% saturated fat, into practical day-to-day meals is almost impossible without dedicated nutritional software or professional help.
You can't just casually plan dinner and hit that number.
Not at all. It forces you into a mindset of constant calculation. The chances of long-term adherence are very low without professional help, which is why the experts docked points.
Okay, finally in this section, let's discuss volumetrics, which is all about leveraging food psychology.
The volumetrics diet is based on a deceptively simple idea. Weight loss doesn't require eating less food, but eating a larger volume of food to maximize satiety while decreasing calorie density.
So filling up on foods that have a lot of water and fiber.
Exactly. It encourages foods with low energy density, like non-starchy veggies and broth-based soups. It limits smaller portions of higher density items like bread, cheese, and higher fat meats.
And what's that classic example they use?
The classic example is that a cup of seedless grapes, about the size of a tennis ball, has the same caloric content as 2 small cookies. The volume of grapes makes you feel much more satisfied.
That's a great visual.
Yeah.
So what are the disadvantages that kept it out of the top rankings?
A couple of major pitfalls. The main con is that it requires a good understanding of energy density, which can be cumbersome to calculate. But more critically, the central premise that volume always correlates with satisfaction doesn't always hold true.
Why is that?
Well, think about it. A small portion of high-density foods, like a few squares of dark chocolate or a handful of nuts, is intensely satisfying due to healthy fats and nutrients. A much larger volume of raw lettuce might leave you feeling emotionally unsatisfied.
That's a fantastic point. Volume equals fullness, but not always deep satisfaction.
Exactly. And the major risk here is that it could unintentionally encourage filling up on highly processed diet foods that are low in calories because of artificial sweeteners, but are devoid of real nutrients.
Let's quickly cover the modernized classic, WW, or Weight Watchers, which ranks highly due to its accountability.
WW ranks strongly because it's well-researched, has a long track record, and is highly flexible. Its newest version, the Personal Points program, is customized based on the individual member's lifestyle.
So this is the top choice for people who thrive on external structure and community.
The strength is its infrastructure. The digital tools are vast. Members get access to over 10,000 recipes, comprehensive trackers, 247 coach chats, weekly progress reports, and on-demand workouts.
And there's research that supports this method.
Right, there is. A key study found that assigning participants to a WW program was significantly more effective for weight loss than just providing self-help materials alone. The structure and accountability work.
The primary con, of course, is that this massive infrastructure is not free.
That's right. While the cost can be as low as about $13 a month, it is still a consistent cost barrier that the top non-subscription diets do not have.
Okay, we've covered the gold standards. Now let's pivot to the cautionary tale. The lowest ranked diets, the ones the experts said lack sustainability and, critically, safety.
This is a vital section because these diets often promise the most dramatic initial weight loss, which can be misleading and dangerous. The 3 lowest rated were the GAPS diet, the Dukan diet, and a modified keto diet.
Let's start with GAPS, which stands for Gut and Psychology Syndrome. It sounds incredibly restrictive.
It is a severe elimination diet. It involves an intense 6-phase detox process followed by a full long-term regimen. It requires eliminating almost all grains, starches, and processed foods. The panel ranked it low due to a significant lack of robust clinical research supporting its claims, the extreme difficulty, and the very high cost.
Next, the Dukan diet, which is famous for its extreme high protein claims.
That's the entire appeal. It claims rapid initial weight loss, potentially up to 10 pounds in the first week. The rules are incredibly strict. Vegetables and fruits are limited to only certain days, and starches like beans and rice are severely limited.
That sounds like a recipe for a total lack of fiber.
Precisely. And here is the absolutely crucial detail the expert panel highlighted. No long-term clinical trials have ever been published to evaluate the Dukan diet's long-term weight loss or health outcomes.
That is a massive red flag, an extreme diet with no long-term supporting research.
It speaks directly to the experts' prioritization of safety.
And finally, modified keto.
Modified keto is an attempt to make the traditional ketogenic diet more palatable by calling for a bit less fat. But even though it's slightly easier, it's still ranked low.
And the reasoning was the same.
Despite the modification, the panel cited its inherent restrictiveness. It still significantly limits fruits, many vegetables, and all whole grains. Anytime you cut out entire categories of highly nutritious whole foods, the chances of inadequacy and difficulty of maintenance just skyrocket.
So if we synthesize all these findings, what's the core lesson?
What's fascinating here is the consistent pattern. The top-ranked diets, Mediterranean, Daesh, and Mind, succeed because they are not actually diets in the traditional sense of punishment or temporary restriction.
They're lifestyle changes.
There are long-term lifestyle changes that prioritize whole foods, emphasize nutritional completeness, and offer flexibility. They are sustainable frameworks, not temporary torture chambers.
That's the critical distinction. So what does this all mean for you? The takeaway isn't that you must choose one of the top three and stick to it rigidly.
No, not at all.
It's that expert consensus overwhelmingly favors balance, research, and sustainability. If you see a diet requiring you to eliminate entire categories of highly nutritious foods, the experts would advise extreme caution.
Absolutely. The best diet for you is always the one you can stick to, which provides adequate nutrition and which is proven to be safe.
As we wrap up, let's leave the learner with something to ponder that builds on that idea of customized eating.
If we connect the dots, especially looking at the flexitarian diet and the emergence of the climatarian and reducitarian approaches, it raises a powerful question. We are moving toward a world where your food choices are no longer just about your personal health markers, your weight, or your blood pressure, but are increasingly tied to environmental or ethical values.
So your plate today is reflecting a growing awareness of your global impact. That's a massive shift in how we approach nutrition.
Indeed. It means the decision of what to eat is no longer just physiological, it's ideological. It's something to chew on when you're planning your next meal.
That is a powerful thought to leave you with. That's all the time we have for this deep dive into the 2025 diet rankings. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Stay well and keep learning.